with that out of the way, let's get to at least two topics of what happened yesterday at the antitrust hearings at Congress. Now, I had debated how I'm going to do this, and chances are we'll be talking about these hearings for the whole week because there was so much to unpack. A brief little overture of it, though, in terms of performance, I think Apple came off the best, although they still had at least one issue, which we're going to talk about today. That was a problem. I believe after that, Google, even though I don't believe them when they say they did not do certain things, came off the most credible. Then Facebook, and the worst that came off, no surprise, was Amazon. But the interesting thing about Amazon is that, unlike the other companies, everyone in the room, more or less, seemed to have done their homework on Amazon and seemed to acknowledge what some of Amazon's problem was, and Bezos got grilled on the seat. Bezos was so totally grilled, and he made some admissions that I think are going to bite him in the butt. So GeekWire wrote this article, what we learned about the antitrust case about Amazon, and let's go down a little bit, because the first couple paragraphs, sorry, my back is scratching, are kind of inconsequential. Here's where it starts getting important. The tone changed when the congresswoman from Bezos district in Washington state had her turn. Representative Pramila Jayapal asked Bezos about a Wall Street Journal investigation from April that found Amazon uses detailed data on third-party sellers in its marketplace to inform the development of in-house products. And she asked, the issue that we're concerned about here is very simple. You have access to data that far exceeds the sellers on your platform with whom you compete. You have access to the entirety of sellers' pricing and inventory information, past, present, and future. And you dictate the participation of third-party sellers on your platform so you can set the rules of the game for your competitors but not follow those rules yourselves. Do you think that's fair to the mom-and-pop businesses who can sell on your platform? My answer, no. In fact, on my end, just to get a little bit more personal, one of the items that has been selling very well on my store have been a set of tools. A really unique set of tools that I only got from one source. And I've been selling them, a few of them a week, actually. And then a couple weeks ago, the sale stopped. And when I checked, Amazon was selling those tools, and they were getting them from the same supplier. So I didn't buy any more, and I basically fire saled the remaining ones. But yeah, Amazon saw my data, saw that I had a unique item that was selling, and they undercut me, the jerks. But anyway, it's a thread that other lawmakers, including the subcommittee's chair David Sisselin, would later pick up. The panel cited interviews with third-party sellers who claim Amazon abused its position as operator of the marketplace to compete with them, in some cases driving the sellers out of business, which they have not done to me, although I did just get an A to Z claim from someone who says they never got their item, but they signed for it, so normally I would just refund if someone said that, but since I have it pretty clearly that they got it, I'm fighting that one. Wish me luck. Bezos said Amazon has a policy prohibiting such use of seller data, but added, I can't guarantee you that the policy has never been violated. It has been violated. We have proof it's been documented. People have testified it's been violated. That comment's going to come back to bite Amazon the butt. Amazon's treatment of third-party centers was clearly at the center of the House's inquiry and will almost certainly factor in a separate investigation that the Federal Trade Commission is conducting. The House does not have the authority to enforce antitrust laws, but the hearing does hint at the evidence that is being collected and shared with the FTC and other regulators. Representative Mary Gay Scanlon later raised a related issue with Bezos. She asked him about a controversial price war between Amazon and Diapers.com that ultimately ended in Amazon acquiring the competitor's parent company and then shutting it down. So remember what I talked about earlier about Uber and the taxis? This is where that comes back. Scanlon claimed Amazon lowered prices on diapers to drive the competitor out of business and then raised them when the competitive threat was eliminated. Which, by the way, this is what a typical company in a position of monopoly does. They undercut the competition in price. They wait till that company either goes under or they acquire, and then they raise the price again. Monopolies don't work. Now, Bezos says, I don't remember that at all. What I remember is that we matched competitor prices. And that's been Amazon's argument this whole time. We match competitor prices. Even though in almost every situation you can get stuff cheapest on Amazon. Scanlon also revealed that Amazon's behavior during the coronavirus crisis is within the scope of inquiry. She asked about a period early on in which Amazon had to prioritize essential items due to the volume of orders from customers sheltering at home. And she was quoted as saying, "We've had several employees report that Amazon continued to ship non-essential items like hammocks, fish tanks, pool floaties, etc. And by the way, not to throw my wife under the bus, but she bought Loungefly purses and backpacks because she loves the Loungefly stuff. Which, by the way, if anyone has a pink Sailor Moon Loungefly that you'd be willing to get rid of for a couple $100, please let me know. She'd really want one for Christmas. But anyway, those were being shipped to her, and that's not essential. I mean, it's fun. She likes them, but it's not essential. So I think that could be proven. She says, Mr. Bezos, were Amazon devices like Fire TV, Echo speakers, and Ring doorbells designated as essential during the pandemic? I would not be surprised if they were, because that's Amazon's business. That's their data collection. Now, Ryan Mack tweeted, of the four CEOs, Bezos has been the worst at dodging questions. He keeps getting pinned by the reps into admitting when he doesn't know things, and it's not pretty for him. Now, what Bezos responded to the, Amazon device question was, what I can tell you is there was no playbook for this. We moved very quickly. Demand went through the roof. It was like having a holiday selling season, but in March, and we had to make decisions very rapidly. But of course, that's a yes or no answer. Now then, Representative Joe Neguse suggested that the panel does not see Amazon's behavior in its e-commerce marketplace as isolated. He asked Bezos whether Amazon Web Services, the company's cloud arm, use information about its customers to develop competing services. As he said, the pattern emerges. We're very concerned about this innovation kill zone. Now, Bezos denied the accusation. He says, we have competitors using AWS, and we work very hard to make them successful. Netflix is one example. Hulu is another. Yeah. However, Amazon has Amazon Prime Video. So if they're providing the cloud services for Hulu and Netflix, they would be able to see what shows on Netflix and Hulu are being watched heavily, and when rights to those shows expires, Amazon could decide maybe we can make that, show creator a deal and get them off Hulu and Netflix and on to Amazon. Now, here are a couple other tweets that were really funny. Ari Levy says, whoa, Bezos doesn't know if the company requires a real name, address, and phone number from sellers? They do, for the record. In fact, they require to see your driver's license. And Nilay Patel says, will Amazon agree to report all sales of stolen goods to law enforcement and to victims to track large-scale offenders? Bezos says yes. Weird as hell? Yes, that was weird as hell. So, it is good that the lawmakers were really, my nose is itching, pressing on Bezos some of the scummy things he's doing. However, there was so much that they could have got them on that they didn't. So let's go through some of the tactics that Amazon uses their monopolistic power for. Some of these were addressed. Now, number one, Amazon is one of America's most trusted brands, but for many startups, trusting Amazon as a business partner has turned out to be a ruinous mistake. The Wall Street Journal's Dana Matali and Cara Lombardo reported this week that the Seattle giant has often used its Alexa fund, a venture capital fund for startups involved in voice technology, to gain access to startups' business plans and private data, only to launch its own competing products later. That needs to be investigated. In some cases, Amazon ended up crushing the startup it had invested in as a result, but that was a trade-off the company could afford to make. So basically, they invested in these startups, collected the data, and then they created their own product. And yeah, they invested in the startup, but they were really after the information so they could cut out the middleman. If the story sounds familiar, it's because Amazon has a long-standard pattern of bullying, backstabbing, and big-footing smaller business partners. Another journal investigation by Matali in April found that the company routinely uses access to data about third-party sellers on Amazon to develop its own competing private label product lines, something the company has told Congress explicitly that it doesn't do, although Bezos actually said, I can't guarantee we didn't do that, so they might have got knocked on that one. As one former employee told the paper, we knew we shouldn't, but at the same time, we are making Amazon-branded products and we want them to sell, obviously. Even Amazon's cloud platform, Amazon Web Services, has become feared by third-party developers for allegedly copying and incorporating their third-party tools into its own proprietary products. They did discuss that on the hearing. The ruthlessness has deep roots in the company's culture, according to Brad Stone's 2013 book, The Everything Store. Way back in 2009, Amazon offered to buy Quidsy, the startup behind Diapers.com. This was touched on for the hearing, so we won't go over that again. None of this to say that Amazon is uniquely unscrupulous. Facebook is famous for either copying or buying any social media startup that starts to make inroads against its dominance, with the threat of copying looming over every acquisition Overture it makes. We'll be talking about that probably tomorrow. The point is not these companies or leaders are evil, it's that their ownership of dominant platforms, coupled with their sheer size and market power, allow them to both squash upstarts and expand ceaselessly into new markets that their platform enables. The more software eats the world, the more dominant software companies feast. So, they go on to like other companies, but look, they have a little section for everyone else, and then Amazon gets their own section that's much longer in this article. So, Congress got on their case about a couple of those things, but not all of them. And really, out of the 4 CEOs that testified, I think Bezos is the most likely candidate to be asked to come back. I think they're going to want to question him a little bit more, and it seems like both Republicans and Democrats really, really hate Amazon. And they might actually be unified enough about Amazon, kind of like how they're unified on China right now, that they might actually be able to get something done. As for the other companies, I don't know if they can do a whole lot else because, most of the other companies, there was not a consensus. I mean, Republicans really harped on all the companies about conservative bias, which all the companies say they don't have. I think that's ridiculous. Of course there's a conservative bias. It's just not the most important thing to me right now. But only on Amazon did the Republicans and Democrats really come together and agree that this company has too much power. Otherwise, Democrats were concerned about one thing with Facebook, Apple, and Google. Republicans were worried about another thing. And that's the kind of divisiveness that really makes it difficult to see anything changing. However, I would like to know what you think about this Bezos grilling. Do you think he was grilled thoroughly? Do you think it should have been more? Or maybe you think Bezos actually held his own very well? I would love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly.